Hello everyone and welcome back to another video. Today we're going to be testing out something new for my gaming setup, and that is these things. Now what these are basically they're magnetic cable ties. So basically I showed you guys my whole process of cable managing my setup, and as you guys could see, the cable strips with it, they work perfectly. They're a trusted item that pretty much everybody uses for their setup. However, they can be a pain when you have to swap something out, because then you have to clip them all up and add new ones. And I saw a video with these ones and I thought, hey, these might be worth checking out. So we're gonna go ahead and do that. Now if you guys saw my cable management video on my setup, then you guys saw that I just used normal cable ties, which don't get me wrong, work perfectly. There's a reason why everybody uses them. However, they can be a pain when you have to swap something out. For example, I've been wanting to put this keyboard into my setup. I don't know what I'm gonna do with this one, but basically just trying this one out. But I never really got around to actually adding it to my setup because I have to go and clip open all the cable ties and that's just something I really don't want to do. And so I thought, hey, these might be an interesting alternative. So I picked up 20 of them and we're just gonna go ahead and see how they work. Here we've got our cable ties, and as you can see, they're magnetic. If I just take one, you can see that it's just magnetic like that. These two round things on the edge, they have the magnets themselves, and then you just wrap the wire around whatever you want to organize or keep tied together, and the magnets will hold them. So without further ado, let's see if these cable ties are actually worth picking up. So the way we're going to test these out is basically I'm going to be adding this keyboard to my setup, and we're going to see if we can tie the cables from that keyboard along with all the other ones in the back with these ties. So that should be interesting. One problem that I can tell right away with these is the fact that they are so big on the edge right here where they actually stick together. It's going to eliminate the possibility of using these brackets that I used in the last video, because obviously these big edges aren't going to fit through the bracket holes. So that's something that we're gonna have to work around with somehow. So we're just gonna have to go ahead and use regular ties for those parts and then just use these wherever we don't need the brackets. Alright, so step one is gonna be removing all the cable ties that are installed right now so we can remove the keyboard and add the new one. So the first thing we're gonna do is head on over to the back of my computer and unplug the keyboard, which should be this wire if I'm not mistaken. Perfect. I also forgot that in order to use that one, we're gonna have to go ahead and find the wire that belongs to it. It should be this white one right here. Perfect, there we go. Now that we've unplugged the keyboard, we should be able to go ahead and pull out the wire throughout all this mess over here, and then hopefully find a way out for this boy. So I was finally able to pull out the wire so that my keyboard is ready to remove, and luckily I didn't have to cut open any cable ties. So it was a surprisingly easy process. Okay, so now my keyboard should be ready to remove. You know, looking at this wire, I'm starting to become quite nervous that it's not going to be long enough to fit like into a neat route from here into the port. So I really hope it works. I really hope it's long enough. Yeah, that's what she said. Sorry. So what we can go ahead and do now is take this keyboard and place it where we want it to be. That frees up a lot of space on the mousepad as well. That's quite nice, because what I realized is often when I play Valorant or any other game, I often have a quite low sensitivity, which means that I usually bang my mouse into my keyboard a lot of the time. So that's hopefully gonna fix that problem. Now I did do a test measure against the other cable, and it turned out that this is a bit shorter, but not that much shorter that it should make a big difference. So hopefully it works. Now we can go under my desk and start laying out the cable. Now we're back at the back side of my PC. Now I don't know how well you can see this, but basically here it is. Right here where my finger is. Long story short, we made it. The keyboard is now plugged in, as you can see. Now the interesting thing is going to be using these cable ties and see how well we can use them to make this look a lot better. Now in the back here we can see that it looks a bit messy. So what I'm going to go ahead and do is try to use a magnetic tie to somehow tie these a bit better. And there we go. Just like that, we have added a magnetic cable tie right there, which holds these cables together now. I've wrapped it around several times, about 3 times, so that it would hold them quite tightly. That is super awesome. I love that. Now right here we have a cable that is like kind of falling down, and I would like to connect it to this cable up here, this white one. So I'm gonna try and use one of these again to see if I can tie these two together. I've tied them together, the magnets stay together, and the cables are just like that, tied back together. Alright guys, that was it. I have now added my new keyboard to the setup, and I've used the magnetic cable ties to neatly make the cable management look better. And I gotta say, I am super satisfied with how these turned out. These are actually really good. One of my biggest fears with these things, one of my biggest concerns, was that the magnets weren't going to be strong enough to actually hold the cables together. But boy was I wrong. These magnets are perfect, and they don't just fall apart. They manage to keep the cables neatly tied up, and if this is too much space, you can just wrap them around several times and then stick them back together, so they're held tightly together. Now I know that in my setup itself there might not have been that much of an example of these cable ties, so what we're gonna do is take my old keyboard, the one I had in the setup before, and then we're gonna try and tie together the cable that's attached to that keyboard using these. Okay, so I am doing this on my bed, so don't mind the mess in the background. Here I've got my old keyboard, and I'm gonna try and take the wire and just fold it together like this a couple times. Something like this. As you can see, it is a bit thick. There are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 cables going back and forth. And we're gonna take the cable tie and tie it around just like that, and use the magnets to hold it together. And there you go. This is so awesome. I can't believe how well this works. I am so positively surprised. And if we ask the question, do I recommend these? Yes, I do. Now, don't get me wrong, regular ties do the job just as well, but these are super helpful if you have a tendency to switch out your gear, switch up the positions of stuff, or if you have to remove something, move some cables around and stuff like that. These are a perfect option if you don't want to be clipping every single tie up every time and then having to add new ones and then go out and buy new ones. You can use these reusable magnet ones. So would I recommend them? Definitely. They're super awesome, super cool. Well, that was all I have for this video. I hope you guys enjoyed. And if you enjoyed, smack the like button and subscribe, as it helps me out a great deal. And I recommend trying these out for yourself, and I'll see you in the next one.